All right, we're getting into distorted perception of masculinity. Why this one? Why this one in particular? What is behind this in particular? What is my premise? Seeing is believing. I love that. That's such a common premise for me in general. But seeing is believing, right? When you walk into a toy store, right, there is a specific color for the boy aisle and the girls aisle, likely. And if not in the aisle itself, it's likely on the toys. Blue in the boys aisle, pink in the girls aisle. You're bound to see those two colors, or at least colors that are red, orange, specific colors you'll see on kids' toys. You'll know the difference. That was a decision made so long ago. But they made a way of visualizing the difference between boys and girls when they made color specific things to put in front of boys and girls. It has always been a perception, it has always been a vision that they have put in front of people for them to buy into. This is only for boys and this is only for girls. So in the same vein, I'm going to use mental gender. What is mental gender? It is specifically something from the book The Kabbalion by the Three Initiates in order to go into this premise. It is what it is. It is a relationship that is much like magnets. Where you are giving energy is masculine. Masculine is purely giving. So say if you are in an emotional state of joy, you will give that energy, and more of the feminine, more of the receiving comes in, or you have more things that are drawn to you that give you joy. Much like if you had, a surprise party and you're really happy to see everybody and you're running around, and it seems to always be something good that's happening in the environment that's really feeding that happy spiral upward. Or you could get bad news and be panicked, be stressed, and you just feel like there's a bombardment of that kind of heaviness for the rest of your day. You're spiraling down because all you're hearing are feedback on how bad things are getting, how terrible things are, and we tend to flip the dynamic. And I say good and bad, but that's more of simple, like a simpler way of putting it. Things that you really want your attention to be towards, and things that you really don't want your attention towards. Both of them exist. So in this dynamic, and the way that it shows up, obviously, is that there are plenty of people who vie for something. You're constantly vying for attention. If you're a marketer, you're constantly looking for that attention. You're looking for what can be marketed and how you market it to who. The attention of your client, the attention of your client's clients, so on and so forth. So, masculinity, right? Now that the table is set, this relationship has obviously got to go. Buying literally anything that has been created in order to sell you something is only actually there to sell you something. Masculinity has had a massive, just as feminine, has a massive selling issue, because not only in the early aughts, I'm going to say that because specifically when 1800s, I think, more so, I think in the 1830s, there was no binary closed choice. Boys and girls wore dresses. Boys and girls wore shorts. Boys and girls practically wore the same thing, and the colors were the same: beige, white, gray. That was it. That was a distinguishing feature. You didn't have any color. And then into the 1900s, things began to change. Eventually, clothing began to change, and it was more normalized. Yes, as adults, boys and girls wore dresses and shirts and, had a distinguishing clothes thing, but when they were boy and girl, they didn't. They had the same things. Shared the same toys, even. Like, it wasn't boy toys and girl toys. It was pretty much the same. But then there was distinction that needed to be made in order to then apply marketing strategy in order to get people to buy things they really didn't need to buy. Everybody knows all you have to do is get a box and a child will be happy. A cardboard box, that's it. So, in order to, in their own way, kind of vent their frustration and also to bind markets together, they created color scheme. They've created the first distortion, which is that there are certain colors that are for boys and certain colors that are for girls. Is that inherently useful? Not really. Is it true? Not at all, because anybody can be attracted to any color. There isn't a set preference by you, so for that set preference to be set by somebody else and not you specifically is underhanded at best and dubious at best, because people are going to like what they're going to like, right? There's no one way to fit a certain role or a dynamic. Everyone knows that. But knowing something and being distorted in your ability to see, because that's what perception is, it's what you see, you're not necessarily taking in information in the same way you think you're taking in information, which again comes with the distortion. And they're selling you a way that it looks, they're selling you a feel, they're selling you that, but you're also looking to buy those things because it reaffirms who you think you are in the first place. And who you think you are tends to be a lot more problematic, especially when it comes to the eyes in which you are seeing, which is why seeing is believing. But the other side of that is, what are you really seeing? Heck, are you even seeing at all? Witnessing what you are seeing. Because the buy-in factor, right? A boy, just get him something that's blue. Get him a race car. Get him an action figure. It's a girl, just buy her a castle, buy her a little car, whatever. It almost turns into a no-brain thing. That you're not really there to make those choices for your child, because at the end of the day, they've already made the choice for you. These aisles exist. Can you, will you likely take a boy child into a girl's aisle and the boy will just pick out whatever toy he wants? Yes, absolutely. You can do that. You can encourage him to be open to the idea that there are more than just the toys in one aisle, that both aisles truly do allow him to understand himself and herself, because this also applies the other way as well. Or do you just go into the boys' aisle and just choose a boy toy and think, well, I have a son, he'll like this? That's where selling and the evasion of something as distortion is simple. It becomes very simple because you don't think about it. It's just off the top of your head. Oh yes, my life is so much easier now that I know exactly what boys like. And most of the stuff in that aisle, their kid probably won't care about anyway. They'll care about the container it came in, but not the thing itself. Granted, some people really do feel comfortable with exactly who they are, exactly when they exist. I grew up with, because of course this comes with stories, I grew up with always looking more feminine than boy. It was just the way my body was, my complexion was, everything. Like, most people couldn't tell. If they couldn't, for whatever reason, see my eyes, they would automatically assume that I was a girl. It happened a lot. It happened a lot. Um, the two times I remember are when I was at a Rite Aid in California City, and I would be walking around the aisles and doing stuff with family, usually my mom. And this one time I was wearing shades inside, and this older woman's like, "You go, girl," and over my head, and my mom apparently caught it and was like, "He's a boy," and she's like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry," and I wasn't happy. But in that moment when I was a child, of course, if you're not seen for who you are, it feels strange to be in the perception that you're in, right? To be a boy, to know yourself as a boy, and for somebody else to miss that, to not see that, feels strange, feels upsetting, feels kind of disrespectful. But again, that's because if you're raised, again, because there's always a distortion that comes with all of this stuff. With respect, like, you not only respect your elders, but you also, have respect and dignity for yourself. There's a way that you see yourself, and you want other people to see that and respect that. And if they can't see it and they don't respect it, then you do feel some kind of way about it. As a kid, I was not happy about that. Not knowing any better, but ultimately just not necessarily a fan of people seeing me that way. Because I'm supposed to be a boy. Funny times. And then another time of going to the bathroom, going through a whole bathroom break at a middle school in Tehachapi. I was lining up to go into the boys' room, and a girl was like, "Oh no, this is the girls' room." I was like, "I'm a boy." She's like, "Oh." Very funny. It was very funny when I told myself after that, because I was like, okay, would I really have just been like, "Oh yeah, you're right," and just like walk into the... No. Absolutely not. But the idea did cross my mind. I've made it very funny. And in those times, like, there was a little bit of like, holding on to that, because it feels like it has some kind of disrespect, or some kind of like, oh, they don't really see me, like some sob story that comes up. I say sob story, but it's internal stuff, the psychological baggage of being like, I don't like that people see me in that way. Like, it's not right. I'm a boy, I'm a man, I'm a young man. But being more wise than I was then, and ironically even more than that, because middle school wasn't even that far away. I was there for, yeah, it was middle school, but I was there for like early grades and stuff like that. But continuing from the point is that a lot of the relationships I built with myself, because I didn't make those first encounters really mean much enough to feel some kind of way about being seen that way. Because I'm going to give you the high end of these stories, because in the low end, I wanted to be seen as a boy. I wanted to be recognized as a boy. The second story, kind of somewhere in between, like, it's flattering that you would want to make sure that I'm going to the right bathroom. Thank you. I appreciate that. And by the same token, it gives me something very funny to think about later. And also, the downside of like, but I'm a young man, that. And then going into this higher story, right? The way you choose for people to see you, the way that you choose to show up for something. So I chose, rather than the other two being moments in which I wasn't choosing. I was just being myself, and for whatever reason, people took my physical appearance and figured that I was a girl. I mean, I had softer features back then. I didn't have the beard, skin glowing, like fabulous, darling, fabulous. But the preceding years, when I got into high school, there was a gender bend day where you could wear the opposite clothes or whatever, dress yourself up to look like, what have you. And I ended up last minute switching with another student who wanted to wear boys' clothes, and I just so happened to walk in with boys' clothes, and she just so happened to want to switch with me. It was rather spontaneous. I don't even remember whether or not we actually had a conversation confirming that we were going to do this. It just kind of happened. Serendipity. I just kind of chose that. I was like, I wanted to do this. So it just happened. So she came to me, and then we ended up swapping clothes. And I ended up going to class, and this specific class you go to in order to get your picture taken and what have you. And the teacher noted that I looked very comfortable in myself and in the dress I was wearing. Yes, I was wearing a dress. Because I chose it, but I also, again, never made a big deal out of the other times in which somebody mistaken me for a girl, because I had really long hair, and it was all curly, just like this. It was all curly, but it always looked kind of short. It always appeared short, but it was very long. The nature of curls, because it just tightens all the way up. And by extension, having that relationship with myself, with my body and everything, I was comfortable being in the opposite clothes, wearing a dress. Didn't mean anything. There was just so much comfort in my sexuality that the teacher just realized that when taking the picture. It's just like, you kind of just know who you are. Which also came with another story. After graduating high school, there was another senior that ended up messaging me a few years after, and was remarking on how they wish they really got to know me, and like, because I seemed like somebody who was just comfortable being myself, which again is very strange, because I've had many different encounters with everybody else, and I never really, I guess, went out of my way to change myself for anybody in particular. Like, I didn't feel like I needed to put on airs. I didn't need to try to attract people. I didn't need to be somebody I really didn't need to be. Like, it just never really crossed my mind. I sat with people, I got a good feel for people, and just realized when it was just time to like get up and move. So him reaching out and letting me know that that was something he appreciated from a distance, somebody on the outside looking in figured that I had a lot of wisdom, a lot of something to give. And yeah, just like a lot of people who spend time with me and talk, they realize that I do have a lot that not I say, but also a lot that helps them consider things that they may not have considered before. So setting up this table and setting up this feast and a demonstration of my own stories in relation to appearance, because ultimately it is about appearance. This is going to be the first video in a series of these videos, likely, that taps into that kind of relationship, per se, both between the two, but masculine and feminine. Why I'm specifically talking about distorted masculine, I have experience, but I also have experience with people assuming I am the other, or just letting me realize that I'm very comfortable in my own sexuality when it comes to anything related to either side. Nothing changes depending on the clothes I wear. Nothing changes if I wear my hair differently. Nothing truly changes about me when I'm, and a lot of people kind of feel weird saying being myself, because what does being myself even mean? You're wholeheartedly invested in acting the way that you've always acted. Like, your attitude, your behavior, your mannerisms don't necessarily change with the people that you're around. You kind of just are that person. Like, when they see you, when they talk to you, the way you engage people, you're just you. There's no cover, there's no filter, there's no other thing that you're trying to be. You're not trying to achieve something out of a conversation with another person in the same way that another person would, like being ingratiating, like taking the time to get that person to really notice who you are, or try to really gain their approval of you. You're just you, and there's nothing going on beyond that. You're kind of, I would say, like, kind of just existing, but in a way, yes, but in another way, in another kind of trade, you're just existing in the most optimal way you can without judgment. Like, there is a lack of judgment on your behalf around the way other people are, around the way you have to be. You're not beating yourself up or putting pressure on yourself to perform, because there is no performance to be had. You're just very genuinely present with what's happening and what's going on. And that was, again, something that came with the stories. When I was just present, these are the things that happened. I was mistaken for a girl when I was younger, and I felt comfortable in myself enough to garner that same reputation from others outside of myself. I didn't make those things happen. They just happened. You can create those instances, but it's not like intentionally creating them, right? Like, you don't put a lot of planning and stuff into it. You just show up. So when it came to this, when it came to these stories and what I've built up so far, this is the set. This is the feast for this initial video. It is to support where we're going and what kind of view we're taking for the rest of the videos moving forward. Because this is the only thing that really matters, is why is this thing distorted? Whose fingerprints are all over what it means to be either a boy or a girl, and why there's a certain level of discomfort being that thing. Because you likely didn't take it on owning any of it. You weren't just existing and being present to the existence that you are, which I've had years of just being to the point where even when it was like, what is the thing that I want to do with my life? Just be. Be exactly who I am. Those words, they sound like words, but they have depth. It's just the wisdom within that depth is very simple. Challenging, yes. Simple, yes. It just requires a bit of awareness, vulnerability as well. The demonstration here is, yeah, could you genuinely wear anything and just feel comfortable being yourself rather than needing for it to appeal to a certain person or appeal to a certain group of people? Is there the demonstration of that in your own life? Did you have moments in which you wore the opposite clothes and felt weird about it, saw other people wear the opposite clothes and felt weird about it, saw boys being dressed up as girls and felt weird about it? Like, there is a demonstration here. There is an obvious relationship that you've had with that very image of something that is articulated, marketed as incorrect, that you have experienced, that you've come into contact with. For me, drag queens, absolutely gorgeous human beings. Like, for them to nail, like, just the full dress and the full drag, like, no notes. 100%, no notes. It is great, it is powerful, it is something that I don't necessarily watch. It's something that I've come into contact with in real life, and I'm always like, damn, they look really good. Like, I can admire it, right? I can admire somebody putting in the effort and the time to dress that way, because it doesn't mean anything to me. So, turning it around, what's the first thing you think about when somebody is wearing something like drag, or just attributing something feminine to a masculine presence? And if the female viewers, you could do the same thing for the opposite. It still shows where you're at. But with that, I leave this here, and I will catch you later.